What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 147 of the FlipScreen Games Podcast, a weekly video game podcast where a few best buds from different nations come together to discuss the wide world of video games. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
And Mr. Max Wright.
Hello.
Welcome back
The
from the
boys
beach,
are back
Pete.
in town.
It's the lineup.
Yeah, we're back, baby. Yeah,
It's
week away.
Glastonbury over here.
You can't see, but I got a nice tan. I'm feeling good, feeling refreshed, excited to be back talking games with you two.
What
Yeah.
orange, what purple sun were you stood under to have got that purple tan?
Did y'all see Dune? It's like that
Yeah.
with the whites or the black sun for the it's like that, but it's vaporwave. I went to the vaporwave planet. So I am super jazzed for this one because it's an episode we've been talking about for a couple weeks now about wanting to do a predictions check-in, because of course we do our predictions at the beginning of every year. We each threw down, what was it, 10 this year plus one risky pick, or was it 9?
Yeah, 10 plus
10
one
plus
risky.
And it's been 6 months since we've done them. A couple of our predictions have come to pass. A couple, we'll see. Maybe looking not so likely, but I figured now is as good a time as any to check in, and we can take a look at what we predicted, how each of us is doing so far, and how we think the rest of the year is gonna play out based on what we know. Max.
I think it's 9 plus a risky pick. I've just counted 4 times to double check. And I'm pretty sure it's
okay.
9 and a risky pick because I was
9
like,
plus a
I
risky.
counted that wrong. I've counted that wrong, but I've definitely 4 times. It's 9.
Okay. Yeah,
Oh,
no, you're right. Okay, so we got 10 each.
Yeah.
I want
You can
to
see how long it's been since we've done these.
Yeah, I want to go over the rules then before. So we put these predictions down as each prediction's worth 1 point, risky picks worth 2 points. You can score full of or half point for a prediction, but we weren't able to pick anything that was left to interpretation or subjectivity because we had some problems with that last year. That's why Pete won. And
That's why I won, not because you guys can't predict anything. Yeah, okay.
And we weren't allowed to pick anything super obvious, something that's already happened, or have any insider knowledge. Like we couldn't just say Nintendo will release a video game. That wouldn't wash. So yeah, we've got some good picks, I think. I'm feeling confident. The more I look at my list, I'm feeling a lot more confident than I did.
You got 1 point on the board, so that's probably better than you've done any year prior to this, right?
Hey, no, that's not better than I've done any other year. Thank you.
Don't throw shade then, all right?
Plus, tons of my predictions from last year came true this year, and I'm absolutely fuming about it. Like, PSVR 2 now works on PC. Like, come on, what are you doing?
Count.
Day and date, a PS5 game comes to PC. Oh.
There's no rule against resubmitting. You could have resubmitted. It's not my fault. I think that's gonna bite you in the ass with a couple of years this year, where you're like, you were too ahead of it. You know, it's like, oh yeah, this year is gonna happen. It's a couple years out probably, but I'll give you credit where it's due though. You called the PSVR 2 thing. That was a good read. You know,
Wow.
a little ahead of its time.
Let's not forget that he called whatever that he called Marathon.
It's still the craziest prediction anyone's done, right?
Yeah.
Frankly, I think you deserve like a special trophy just for that one.
The marathon badge, yeah. Just get me a Snickers bar that, it just says marathon on it.
That could be interesting. We could get a second trophy, and whoever has like the craziest right prediction gets that. It's like the MVP trophy, right?
Where the marathon trophy.
Your team didn't win, but you deserve the individual accolade for getting the marathon.
Games predictions 2030. We're going to be swimming in trophies. We're going to be like, oh, you got the trophy because you had your one eye closed when you predicted it. That you get that this year.
It's the taking part trophy.
I'll tell you what, Steve, because I have to get my trophy updated with the plaque for last year. I'll work on getting we'll get
the little marathon.
The marathon. We'll call it the marathon trophy. I like that. Marathon exhibition trophy. All right, so let's jump into some of the ones we got for this year. My first one was that the next Nintendo console will launch at an MSRP of $70 for a console game. I'm going to go ahead and say that one is
red.
It's red. I could get half points if they reveal that there will be a $70 MSRP. But
wait, I'm pretty sure it says no half points.
No, it doesn't. It
Oh, it
says
does say half points if
we
it's
can
two.
we could do a two-part prediction.
Yeah.
So it is the next generation will launch, and then with an MSRP
Oh,
of
okay.
$20
Yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
Sorry, my
So,
bad.
like, right now, I'm definitely not getting the first half of that, but if they do the full console reveal and for whatever reason acknowledge that games are gonna cost that much, then great,
Yeah.
but I think that's pretty unlikely at this point. I think, yeah, I took a lot of those rumors that we were gonna see it this year to the bank, and
mhm.
as we know, they delayed their plans to release it into, 2025 so they can shore up the launch lineup, so that's one that maybe might have been true before, cards got shuffled around, but I don't think there's any likelihood I'm getting points on this one now.
I'm still so curious to find out what actually happened there. Like, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall in the conversation where they decided to push it to 2025. Like, was it the hardware wasn't ready? Do they really want to launch it with Metroid Prime 4 and that wasn't ready, so they pushed the hardware out?
I kind of get the impression that because this is like something that we've talked about a lot this year about like where they're at in the Switch's life cycle and how they're in this like interesting kind of like point where I think that for the hardcore consumer, like we're very ready for a new device, but for the casual consumer, like this was only the first year where sales slowed, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm imagining if I'm a bean counter at Nintendo, like it probably seems insane to push a new console out when the thing is still setting sales records, it's still exceeding expectations this many years into the life cycle. It's like why would you rush to kneecap sales of a still successful device. And I think it's, to me, that delay now that you see this year is the year where it's actually slowing down makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's like, hey, let's ride one last holiday season. Like, let's, go for maybe we do a price cut, maybe, whatever,
Yeah,
right?
we got
You
some
play
special edition
whatever
consoles to pump out.
yeah, you play whatever cards you have left to play, right? Like they're doing that special edition for the Switch Lite, right? With the new
Zelda.
Zelda game, right? It's like that's a great way to move a bunch of Switch Lite units before nobody's gonna want to buy one of those, right? And like I'm wondering if maybe that's just what happened where they're like, hey, like, yeah, we
I
could put it out, but sales are strong. We already have a good launch lineup that we could like beef up, and like rather than having two or three big games launch here, maybe you have five or six. And just
I
like
could
making
see
sure
that,
that you
but
come out like
yeah.
all cylinders firing so that nobody has any question about upgrading. Nobody's sitting here thinking, I'll wait. Nobody's sitting here thinking PlayStation 5 problem, Xbox Series, where are all the games? Why did I
I
up?
think that's the real
Yeah.
reason. I think it's the software because you look at the Switch's first year, a lot of those games were ports of Wii U games and probably games that were in development for Wii U that then shifted to the Switch. You don't have that same pipeline going on for the Switch 2. They've got to start from scratch. I would imagine Metro Prime 4 was probably it was obviously targeting the Switch, and I think that now probably does target the Switch 2 and becomes the main launch title for that. But I was
Yeah.
surprised that we still haven't heard anything about it, but I guess you don't want to cannibalize the holiday sales at this point.
Yeah, and also the
Mhm.
lineup's not bad, is it? We just had a direct where a bunch of new games were revealed
Yeah.
or announced we didn't know about, and like maybe maybe people were going off old information. Maybe it wasn't delayed. Maybe it was just like, okay, cool. What we doing? We've got these games to come out. Sure. Well, we don't need to release Switch 2 right now. Let's do it. The announcement could still happen this year. We could still see the announcement, and then, like you say, the $70 thing could be announced there. I think one of my predictions, I think it could, one of them, it could be announced in like an announcement at the end of the year, or maybe that doesn't get announced till March next year.
I
Who
don't
knows?
think it's getting announced this year. I don't think you put out limited edition consoles and a big lineup of games and say we're not going to talk about the new Switch in this event and then announce the new console so close to the holiday season. I just think
Yeah,
that would be
So the
weird.
possibly.
only thing I could see though is, and we talked about this before, right? Where that kind of happened with the Switch, where
Yeah,
they
no one
had
was buying the Wii U. Like that's the problem.
totally, and that's the difference. But they did acknowledge the NX at I want to say it was the Game Awards, right? It was that December. It was in a December event, and they were like, "Hey, you've heard about NX. We're going to talk about it early next year." And then that ended up being the reveal event that happened in January or whatever of the
Mhm.
following year. I could see something like that where maybe they're like, we're December, like it's in December, Black Friday's already happened, holiday stuff's already like come and gone, and it's kind of like, or it's already about to, you know what I mean? It's like we're winding down for the year, and they're like, hey, we have stuff to look forward to next year to talk about. in the same way that they were like, "Hey, we're not talking about hardware in June." I
Well,
can
that's
see them
because
being like,
investors have been getting antsy. They were
totally.
asking questions like,
But again,
it's
in that same breath,
timing.
I could see them being like, "We're planning to announce the next console in January, in
Yeah.
March, in whatever," to set expectations for people, to alleviate concerns from investors, to
I mean, you'll
maybe
see that in the
artificially inflate
financial.
their stock for a couple
Yeah.
weeks, like,
You'll see it in the financial forecast at some point because
uh-huh.
whenever Take-Two does a financial forecast and we see a massive spike in revenue in one quarter, we know when GTA is gonna launch.
Right, totally. So, yeah, so, like, I kinda can see both sides of it, where I wouldn't be surprised if it's mentioned by the end of this year, but I don't think there'll be any kind of formal reveal, which to me means my prediction is just I don't see any reason where they'd be like, "Yep, games will cost $70." Like, I don't think that's gonna happen, right? That's probably something that you get into after your reveal event when everyone's like, "So how much are all these games that you just announced selling? Oh, they're all for $70? Okay." That's how that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Steve, you wanna read your first one?
Yeah, so my first one is Valve will release a new game, no re-releases, and I think this one is gonna become true. We've seen a lot of leaks surrounded around Deadlock, which is their new shooter that's been. We've seen a number of leaks, like registration marks, but then also actual
Like, full
gameplay footage
gameplay.
from testing. So
Yeah.
I would imagine this one's nearing release. Whether it releases in 2024 or whether this becomes a 2025 title, I don't know.
I think that's the concern is I think this might fuck you just because of timing. Like, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if maybe there's like an early alpha or something like that, but like for it to be like out and anybody can jump in, I don't know that we're gonna hit that this year. It looks pretty far along though, based on what we've seen. So it's like certainly not outside the realm of possibility, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a reveal is this year, it comes out next year kind of joint.
That's the way I think if it was coming out this year, we might have already seen it this year. Like, how long was the CS:GO reveal to launch? Like, I can't remember how long that was.
I'm not
I'm
sure.
not sure, but Counter-Strike 2 was
That's what I meant,
and
sorry, CS what I meant,
yeah,
Counter-Strike 2,
Counter-Strike 2
sorry.
was announced in like March and then released in September.
Okay. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that it makes it towards the tail end of the year, but I wonder if it just doesn't quite make it because we don't know if it's even ready to be revealed yet. This is just like development stuff, right?
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out that like what we've seen of gameplay would imply that people are testing it. That doesn't mean that it
Mhm.
has a closed like, it could be in a closed early alpha right now, and that the only reason that you're not hearing about it is because it's more interior, it's like a friends and family kinda thing, it's
Mhm.
like, they that's not unheard of, right, for multiplayer games. Um, so who's to say? I don't know. It could very much be the kind of thing where they do their first official reveal of it, quote, unquote, in a couple months, and it's like, "Hey, beta's open now," right? Like, that wouldn't be crazy for Valve to do. They're one of the few organizations that could do that with a multiplayer game and have it just go over, right? Because it's like, well, yeah, it's on the front page of Steam. Of course, I'll jump in and try it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, but they
who's to
control that
say?
platform, don't they?
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, X.
I was gonna say in our the way I've been categorizing these of like there's a scale of white is could go either way, yellow is leaning towards more true, orange is leaning towards more like not gonna happen, red is not happening at all, green has already happened. So this I've given a yellow just because I think it's possible. We've seen the game exist, therefore it's more likely
I
than
think it's
not.
a total coin flip whether it happens or it's so close to happening, but you get fucked by
Yeah.
a few months.
I've yellowed it because we know a game exists. Whereas if
Yeah.
we had no idea a game existed, there was nothing that had leaked, that would be a solid yellow. 'Cause it could just drop anything could drop at any time. We
Mhm.
know it exists, therefore, I'm putting it a little bit towards yellow. That's where
Yeah.
I'm going. But I don't wanna have, like, a 10-point scale of of how likely it is.
Does the game
Um,
look good though? Do we think
no,
it looks ready?
I don't think so,
Mm.
Um,
personally.
I don't
They're
know.
not my
Just
cup of
because we're
tea. I
seeing it
don't
out of
like.
context, though. We're seeing it all out of context. We're just seeing, like, someone chooses a character, runs around a zone, hitting things. It looks like a lot of
Yeah.
games that already exist. We don't know if there's, like, a core twist or, like, a unique selling point, something that sets it apart from other
I
games.
I
We're
also just
seeing it
don't
like this,
think
we can't know.
games like that preview very well. I think it's so easy because like this was the conversation we were having about was it Concord is the PlayStation one, right? Where it's like a bunch
Yeah,
of people
yeah.
are immediately like, fuck this because it's not the kind of game I want it to be. And it's like, I mean, that doesn't mean it won't be good. It's like I think I can count on probably one hand the number of times I've seen a game like this and thought that the preview material was like oh, this looks exceptional, right? It's like,
Yeah.
how much of it is like, how does the game feel in your hands? How fun is it to get through a round? Like,
Yeah,
and
look
so
at
much of that
Helldivers.
is exactly. We
Like
were like so having that conversation of like, oh yeah, Sony has Helldivers. Like, we'll see what that does. And it was one of the biggest games of this year, and it
yeah.
continues to be one of the biggest games.
I think if you listen to the episode where we talk about what a PlayStation Studio is working on, we mentioned Helldivers, and we were both like, "Yeah, this looks fine. I can't see that. I don't know why they gave it such a big showing at this latest event. It just looks a bit blur." And then it came out, and it was like, "Wow, it blew everyone away." And there's just sometimes it's impossible to tell. And I think this footage of whatever the game's called, the new Valve one,
Deadlock.
Deadlock. It doesn't spark joy in me, but it does have potential, obviously. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm inclined to say it'll probably be good. I think Valve's
okay,
track record for putting
yeah,
out good multiplayer games is pretty high. So the idea that this is going to come out and like not deliver is, I don't know. I don't
yeah. Like,
see that.
how often do Valve miss other than with Artifact? Um,
Sure.
yeah.
All right, Max. So your first one was another Nintendo one.
Yeah, so I said that the next generation Nintendo console will be fully backwards compatible with Switch software, digital, and carts within reason. I think there were things like Labo. I said, or there are certain things that maybe don't work in the context of like if the system isn't
Yeah.
exactly the same as the Switch. So I have not left this with anything because I'm still if they announce it this year, and they say, "Oh, here's the new Switch," just in case they do say that, and they say, "Oh, you'll still be able to use your old Switch carts." Bing, that's a green for me. If they don't announce it at all, or they announce it and they say you can't use your old software, that's a red. But we don't know either way what's going to happen, so I'm
Yeah,
leaving it
I
as
I think it's probably likely that this ends up in a similar category as mine, where it's like it really depends on what the nature of the announcement is. Because
yeah.
if their announcement is we're going to talk about it next year, then yeah, you're
Hmm.
fucked. But if
Yeah,
it
if
is
it's
a
like
thing where they're like trying to get out in front of it, then yeah, maybe.
I don't see this being the same as the Switch launch. The Switch launch was announced in October. The reveal event was in January, the full reveal. Before that, it was just we saw the one trailer, we got the sort of the things about it. I think what they had to do there was come out and say, this isn't another Wii U. This is gives you enough time to sort of this is something brand new from us. They're following up to a very successful system. I don't think they need to do a big like, here's a little trailer for this brand new system you've never seen
Yeah.
before. They just need to say, here's our new system in like a big event, or even just a tweet. They've done that before. Switch Lite was a tweet. Here's the new Switch Lite. So yeah, I don't know if we're going to necessarily see like a huge gap between the first reveal and then like the details reveal. I think we get it as like one lump sum this time because they don't need to quantify it like that. They're not in a slump like they were with the Wii U. And they want to probably make sure that people know that the Switch is still a viable system worth buying. So they're not going to just immediately put something out that gives people question about, oh, should I still buy a Switch? Whereas if they say this thing does this, people can go, well, okay, I don't see value in that myself at launch. I'm going to pick up a Switch now, pick one of these up in a few years' time, or when they do like an OLED or a Pro model, let's say, maybe at a guess. So yeah, that's my first one. Pete, what's your
Uh,
second one?
my second one is Xbox will launch Game Pass for mobile games like Candy Crush and open a mobile game app store. So, uh, Steve, I think, has included or no, Max, you did. There's a link
No, it was
here
Steve.
from
It was Steve.
okay. There's a link here from Bloomberg that's talking about this. This is something that they're working on. I think it's just a matter of whether or not this happens this year,
Hmm.
which we'll see.
Yeah, so Sarah Bond was at the Bloomberg Tech Summit and she had an interview and she said that they are going to launch the store with Microsoft's own games, including Candy Crush Saga, and that eventually they will also open the store to other publishers. And this is going to be a web store, so there'll be like web games that you can like install on your phone. Whether this comes with a Game Pass angle or not is yet to be seen, but the mobile store is definitely going to happen. If it happens in 2024 or not is another matter. It might be a 2025 release, and that would be a
Yeah,
half point if
I
they
was going to
don't
say, is this a half
if they
point?
don't launch Game
Yeah.
Pass. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll see. I think there's a good chance I get points on this one, but I think just like yours, Steve, it could just be a similar where I was just a little too ahead of the game on it.
Which would be a
Yeah.
shame because I'd like to see more competition. I think,
Yeah.
it's been too much dominance and monopoly on app
Yeah,
stores on phones.
and I don't know. I don't know if this is a thing that other people feel, but I was thinking about this this weekend because I was watching a video where someone was talking about like representation of video games in like different like TV shows over the year or whatever. And I feel like the mobile game moment has kind of come and passed. Like obviously there are a lot of mobile games that still make a lot of money, but there was a point where mobile was like this like active, thriving scene, and everybody was, "This is the future of video games," and I never believed that, but I feel like you can really see how it stagnated in the last couple years, and not to say that like I'm super passionate about somebody fixing it because I think that there's a chance that mobile games are just what they should be, and that I this is a point I made once as
Yeah.
kind of a joke, but I believe it actually, which is that mobile games are analogous to video games in the way that pornography is analogous to like film, where it's like
I don't
it.
know. I think there's like peaks and troughs with it. Like there are the diamonds in the rough, and
Yep.
then there's the kind of fodder that floods the
I
stores.
think the problem I end up having with that as like a thought is that there are definitely games I have played which launched on mobile first or which also play on mobile that are great games. I don't think many of them are good in a way that is specific to mobile.
And I think that's the sign of a good game. I don't think it should be a good game, a good mobile game that can only be played on mobile. Like Candy Crush, you can play it on your PC if
Yeah.
you want, but it's a good game. Grindstone, I think we were talking
Yeah.
about
Great
it,
game.
Max.
That game
You played
rules.
it on, you just picked it up on in the Steam Summer Sale. Great on mobile. I think
Yes.
Balatro, when it launches on mobile, is going to take over my
I
entire
agree.
life because I'm not
True.
going to need to play it on my Steam Deck and I'll be able to
Yeah.
play it anywhere.
Marble Snap's another game that launched sort of on mobile, but in beta on PC, and then they're in the release sort of the fuller version of it.
Sure.
Like it transfers between the two of them. But I do think that Microsoft are this thing. If it's like for Candy Crush, I think that's the audience they're maybe looking for this. So maybe we will get a lot of the you've run out of lives. I started playing a Monster Hunter puzzle game that came out last week, and I was like, yeah, this is fine. I don't really understand like the whole back game of it of like building up a cafe or anything, but I do like the puzzle side of it. And then I got to a point where I was like, oh, I don't have any I don't have any lives now. Cool. Okay, I guess I can't play for a bit. And I was like, yeah, this reminds me of why I don't play mobile games anymore, you know.
Yep. And that's a thing I constantly end up having with mobile games, which is just like, even if they are fun, like you hit an artificial kind of like block and it's like, oh,
Mhm.
spend more money. And it's like, ah, never mind. No thanks.
Mhm.
So it's like, I don't know. Maybe it is just a thing where like that's what mobile games are, and like that's the way that they're gonna make money. And that's fine. I genuinely don't have a problem with that. I think it could be interesting to see something like this where maybe they do try to push more experiences like Apple Arcade and like what you see on like the stuff you called out, like Grindstone or like Florence or some of those other games that are like standout mobile experiences, or again, like the trading card game stuff like Marvel Snap or Hearthstone or stuff, which are just like they're fucking great and they're really at home on mobile. That would be cool because I would love to have more engaging experiences, I think is the
Mhm.
thing, right? Like, and there's nothing wrong if people don't want that, but like the thing that's gonna get me to play on mobile is stuff like Balatro, is stuff that I are
Yeah.
more quote unquote real
Yeah,
games, you
I
know?
agree.
To have a Netflix style approach to it, you know how you can download all these games like not Slay the Spire, that is on mobile, Dead Cells or
Oxenfree
I mean,
2.
Pointy, stuff like that that's
GTA
all
just
on
got added to Netflix
yeah,
as
right?
it's a
To
subscription.
have that, but it's Games Pass, and you have like these more fuller experiences that are tied to your Game Pass subscription. I can see that being very, very good. If there's like, oh, these are full games on mobile that I don't have to pay for or watch ads and stuff because I pay for Game
Mhm.
Pass, great,
Mhm.
wicked. That would be good.
Especially if it is like cool puzzle games, because it's like that's a thing that you see with some of the like I remember like Peggle back in the day, which was
Mm,
like a
Yeah, I
really
loved
fun puzzle
Peggle.
game, but it's like
mhm.
the last version of it, you couldn't even buy it, and it was all ad supported, and it's like, I don't wanna look
That's
at
because
fucking
Peggle
EA
ads.
Blast,
bought PopCap, and it was during
yeah.
EA's horrible era.
Peggle Blast
Mhm.
was the most like when I first saw Peggle Blast on the App Store, I was like, yes, wicked. I got to a point where I was like, this is really hard. Why is this so hard? Oh, I can buy boosters. Great. I get it now. I
Same
stopped
deal with
playing it.
Tetris. Like I've struggled to find a
Uh-huh.
decent version of Tetris on mobile, and like I just go back to Tetris 99 on the Switch because I paid for it, and
Mhm.
it's a great version of Tetris.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's like I think those are areas where like I could see like Xbox has so many games in their library that would be at home there, and I think that could be really interesting. At the very least though, like you said, Steve, getting another like player in the space is a good thing.
Mhm. Now
Uh
I think you made this one red, Pete, but I don't think it is
I
red.
don't agree with it either. I
it
was well, I was
is, you're
about to
wrong. I
What's red?
mean,
What 4 games are
read it
coming to
out. Read it out.
PS5?
Read it out first before we argue.
Excluding remasters and re-releases, PlayStation Studios will release no more than 3 PlayStation console exclusives in 2024.
Not on PC in brackets.
right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
important. I don't agree that that's red.
No, it's not
Alright,
red.
fine. Maybe it's orange. I mean, right now, there are at
There's
least
3.
there are 3.
There's exactly 3. Rise
There
of the
are
Ronin.
exactly 3. It's Helldivers 2, Concord, and Astrobot, because the Lego Horizon game is also coming to Switch.
Doesn't matter.
Wait,
It's
hang on a
still a
minute.
PlayStation Studios
Well,
game.
hang on a
No,
minute.
it's exclusive. It says PlayStation console exclusive. It's not a console exclusive.
You know what? You're
But
right.
hang on a minute.
Apologies.
Hang on a minute. But Helldivers 2 is on PC. Concord is also on PC. Surely you
Console
mean Rise
exclusive.
of the Ronin and Stellar Blade are the 2 games, right?
They're not
No,
by
it's console
PlayStation
exclusive.
Studios, are
Are
they?
they not published by PlayStation Studios?
Not according to their website, no.
No.
Okay,
No.
fine.
The
Then
the 3 games right now are Helldivers, Concord, and Astrobot. Those are
2 of those are
all.
on PC.
I know,
It
but
doesn't
Pete
matter
made
if
me
they're
put
on
in the
PC.
bracket,
It says
not in
console
PC.
exclusive.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I agreed that some games will come to other consoles, like MLB The Show, for example. That's not a
Right.
console exclusive because it comes to Xbox. The Horizon game would have fucked me if they brought it to
Yeah, no, you're
only
totally right.
PlayStation, but that's coming to Switch. So I think this
Oh,
one
I
goes.
see. Sorry, not on PC means not that the game won't release on PC. The
No, it
game means
means that
PC doesn't count.
it's only a console exclusive. It
Couldn't
will
yeah,
release on
like
another console.
the Ghost of Tsushima release on PC wouldn't count. Is like
Yeah.
because otherwise, yeah,
Right, with you.
you're already busted by that point. Yeah.
So you are 1 game away from this being false then?
I
Correct.
am.
I'm giving that an orange. That's got to be an orange for me.
I can't see them announcing anything that goes after Concord myself, but I might be wrong because
I mean,
Spider-Man got announced
we
late
also
in the
said
game.
that about Astrobot. So
Let's
Yeah.
see.
we'll see. We'll see. I will say I put that way because I was thinking of Horizon, and you're totally right because you said console
Coming to
exclusive,
Switch, yeah.
and it's
Yep,
multi-plat day
it's
one
on
so,
Switch.
yeah, which is
So,
fucking wild, by the way. But whatever.
my next one is relevant. I
Yeah.
said that a 2020 PS Studios game will be re-released on PC, excluding games announced as of January the 8th, 2024. So I was hoping this was either going to be The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, or Demon
Great
Souls.
one.
They were like my 3 big picks.
I think
And Ghost of
probably 2
Tsushima
of them are
happened.
coming.
Yeah, I think Demon Souls is still in the way eventually. But yeah, Ghost of Tsushima came out in May, I want to say, sometime in May, and it was a good port all
Might
accounts.
have been
So
June, but yeah.
this is the first green of the whole lot. This is my first point
Great
given
one.
so far. So
That was a
there we
really good
go.
prediction.
Thank you very much. Let's wrap it up
Good
now.
job, Max.
Let's call it right there.
Let's
Everybody,
call it
Max
there.
wins.
Yeah.
All right. My next one is there will be one video game acquisition deal announced that will break the top 10 of all time, which would mean it would have to cost $2 billion or more.
Yeah,
Nothing
this is
yet.
not the market. This is not the market for that, is it, right now?
Nope,
No.
sure isn't. We'll see. I mean, it's
Yeah, I'm
certainly
not-
like, here's the thing. This is not the time to do it, and that is also why it's a good time for it if you're a small company. There are a lot of small companies that are consolidating, looking to be bought. Whether or
Mhm.
not there's a big company willing to plunk down $2 billion right now is, I think, the bigger question.
Well, according to Pocket Gamer, Q1 across the whole industry, there was 2.4 billion in mergers and acquisitions. So that's everything. So you'd have
Right.
to have one deal that would be
Yeah.
That
entitled
said,
to.
a lot of year left. So
Yeah,
I'm,
There
you
is.
know,
only halfway.
we'll see on this one. I don't feel as confident as I did at the front of the year, but also, I mean, deals like this happen all the time and they come out of nowhere. So we'll see.
Now, Max has put my next one yellow, but I think it should be green already. PlayStation will formally pivot away from live service games, for example, reflected in IR presentations or more game cancellations. I think the mass layoffs at studios, the cancellations of games, the shutting down of entire studios really goes to show that they've just moved away from live service. I don't think we're getting a live service game from Gorilla. I don't think we're going to see much more.
For me, it's the formally pivot away. It's the IR presentations, it's the game count. We haven't seen any formal game cancellation. We've seen studios get shut down. We haven't seen formal, properly, game cancellations announced. Like
Except
games
for
are already announced.
except for The Last of Us. That did get formally
That is
announced.
true. That is true.
The Spider-Man stuff was something that leaked and has been canceled. That doesn't technically count as like a formal acknowledgement.
Mhm.
I think where you struggle with that, and this is a thing we've seen in our comments whenever we talk about this, people love to come at us for saying that this is a thing that is happening. By pointing out games that have already been announced that are very far in development that of course are going to come out and not acknowledging the ones that are further out, which have now been removed from the docket. Here's my thing, Steve. I think that you're right. I don't know that there's evidence
There
that
is
you're right.
evidence. So
Aside from
there was a Q&A with shareholders on the Sony Group website, and Hiroki Totoki has said that they have cut the number of games live service projects planned to release by fiscal year 2025 from 12 to 6. And I think that for me is kind of
I think that's
evidence
pretty
that
good
they're
then, 'cause
formally pivoting away.
that's where I was gonna trip you up, is that there's not been a formal acknowledgement of this. A lot of this is us reading tea leaves, and if you're somebody who's, like, one of the critical commenters that likes to come at us, they point to games like Helldivers and
Mhm.
Concord that are both coming out this year. Is like, "What do you mean they're moving away from live service
Mhm.
games? Their most successful game this year was a live service game. They have another one coming out in a few months. Who's to say?"
Alright, I'm reading this now. Reduced from 12 to 6. Like Spatial Projects, yeah. Alright, I'm gonna give
I
this
mean, to me,
3.
that's 6 confirmed game cancellations. That's
Yeah, I'm
pretty
with you there.
significant,
Yeah, I
and
hadn't seen this before.
that's in an investor presentation. I feel like it's safe to say, I think the only reason I wouldn't give you the point right this second is that
Mhm.
there's several months left, and if
There's
they
the rest of
announce
the
another
year.
game that is like, I think that maybe gets dicier, but
Yeah.
I
Imagine it
think
takes
I
down 2 of his things as well, 2
kinda
points at
feel like
once.
you're at least for a half a point on this one though already,
Okay.
would
All
be
right. Well,
my
I'll take a half point later down the line, but I think this
personally.
one's going green by the end of the year. I really
I think
think
you're
that
right.
the new co-CEOs think live service is garbo, and I think that was probably the reason that Jim went out the door.
I
Yeah, I
agree
think
with you.
so.
I think this is more of a semantical argument than it is like, I don't think you're correct. It's more like, I think we need to probably have a few more, like, cemented
Mhm.
bits to give you the full
Uh,
point, but
yeah, I'm
also,
very
I think
likely on
if we get
this.
to the end of the year and there's no other mention of live service, I would give you the point because I think that then if the only and like, mentions of it have been releases of games that were already deep in development and saying, "Hey, we're moving away from it," then I think that to me, that seems like
Yeah.
you're right.
We could even see at the end of the year, we see, "Oh, Concord didn't perform like we like, therefore we're gonna move away, blah, blah, blah." They could formally announce it. Let's say
Oh,
Concord doesn't do
Concord
what
Yeah,
they
like, if
fall
that
wanted
game's
flat
a
on its
fucking
face.
flop
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
cancel it, right? Like, they don't end up following through on, like, their multiple season plan for that game, then I think
Mhm.
that's another, like, point in your favor for getting the full point.
Yep, I think so. Good. Glad we're in agreement.
Good one. Okay. Next up, Max said a Xenoblade Chronicles X re-release will be announced.
Yeah, I
Probably
mean,
not.
it could still happen towards the end of the year. I'm gonna give it an orange. You are correct, that should be orange because 'cause you've had, like, a big direct, so I don't see them doing another one with all the games that have been announced, and I don't see the games that have currently been announced don't need any more time in a direct, I don't think. We might still get one in September. Gamescom, we might get one. But I don't see this happening. It's also not happened yet, so orange it is.
Aren't you
Um,
glad that you picked that one, Max?
Orange I'm not because it's not happening.
my next one is the Steam Deck will launch in Australia. Uh, not yet, but again,
No
this is the
word.
kind of thing that could happen at any point.
Yeah.
It still blows my mind that it's still not available there. It's like an
Yeah.
English-speaking massive Western country, and you
Yeah.
can't buy a Steam Deck.
Well, they have to make it so the buttons are upside down, and that's probably a hard engineering job and a half. Gravity's different.
Do you
We'll
think
see.
more people in Australia use their sticks inverted because of that same reason?
Ooh,
Mm.
closer to the other pole, the wrong
Yeah.
pole. Yeah.
All right, Steve, your next one?
So my next one I've set as orange. The rumored refreshed Xbox console is real, but will feature a way to play physical discs. I don't think this is happening. They've done an all digital version now of the Series X that they've announced. We've got new colorways on the Series X as well. I think that rumored Brooklyn console has probably been chucked in the trash or is coming in 2025. My guess is
Hmm.
it's probably chucked in the trash based on them already talking about the next generation of
Yeah,
Xbox.
if the rumor we heard about like a quote unquote next gen Xbox in 2026 is real, then I think yeah, it's probably not coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm still not super in on that as a rumor, but we'll see.
Unless that handheld has, like, a big fat disk drive, strapped to the back of it, and that happens to come out this year. I don't know about that.
Okay.
My next one is tragic. There will be a new game, remaster, or remake of a Pokemon RPG that visits a classic region released in 2024, right?
So
Announced.
close.
It was
You're so
announced.
close.
I was too specific with released. I really, really thought this was gonna be the case. Pokemon ZA was announced, when was that? In, like, an early direct, but it's not coming out till next year. So, oh well, not even a half point because I was too specific, but whatever.
Such a shame.
It
Yeah,
is
you
such
were
a
real
shame.
close on that one.
Yeah.
My next one was at least one major games as a service will hold a nostalgic event to revive the player base, and I gave examples as in like Fortnite did OG, where like they went back to season one. WoW Classic is obviously a re-release of Vanilla WoW, and
Mhm.
PUBG is doing that. They're doing a re-release of the original Erangel map from, I don't know if that's how you say that, but
I think it's a wrangle, I think. But I think it's
Erangel.
been and gone. I think it's already come and it's already gone. It ended in so I think it went from May 14th to May 28th, 2024,
There
May
you go.
23rd to June 6th, 2024. I put this together in the end of April, and I was scouring just to double check for everything and saw this and thought, "Yeah, this counts. This has been and it's gone, but it counts." I think
Definitely.
so. I've given that a green.
So that's my
Pete's
first point on the board.
Pete's first point on the board.
Nice.
Good
So
job.
just to recap right now, Max with 1, me with 1, Steve with point 0.5.
Mhm.
No failed ones yet. Some dubious
No,
ones. No
there's
failed
gonna
ones.
be some
Mm,
failed ones though by the end of the year, that's for sure.
Next
absolutely.
next from Steve.
So I said a new play date will be announced with the backlit screen. I still think this is probably going to happen. Whether it's 2024 or not, I don't know. There's been some wild news about the play date, though. I don't know if you guys saw the
No.
stolen pallets of play dates that
Yeah, there
showed up
was like
outside of a random restaurant.
thousands of them got stolen and then they just
Ah.
like brought them back.
Just dumped them outside of a restaurant in the middle of the nowhere, and
Yeah.
like then they had
Well,
to go
because
and
they realized
collect
they were
them.
completely useless.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they just basically they could brick them all remotely because you have to
Oh,
download the
okay.
game, so they just like bricked them all. So
Right, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They are completely useless then. Okay.
Yeah, they were
yeah.
literally just what like lumps of plastic you couldn't do anything
Yeah.
with, so they just threw them out.
I'll be honest, I had about 2 hours of my play date and then sold it to buy a Steam Deck.
That was a good investment, I
I
think,
think that was a
selling the
great
play date
investment.
for a
It
Steam
paid for
Deck. Yeah,
most of my Steam Deck,
yeah.
so good stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. This could go either way, I think. Depends on what they've got in the works.
Yep, I'm with you. Um,
Max?
my next one is there'll be a new piece of hardware announced by Valve excluding limited edition colorways. I don't currently see this happening based on because they just haven't said anything either way. But yeah, I was quite when as soon as so when Steve sent me a message about a later prediction and he said predictions, baby, I in my head immediately thought that was me, and then I realized it wasn't me. So that is currently a nothing, but it could still happen. We never know. There's half a year left.
Well,
Anything
there's
could
the
happen.
rumor of the new VR headset that's been kicking
Yeah,
around the decade. You know,
yeah,
who
we've been
knows
talking
if
about that
that's
for
going to happen?
over a year now, haven't we? Like rumors of that.
And not a great time for that, in my opinion, either. I
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprised if they back away from that as a skew, personally, but
yeah.
who's to say? So
I'm
we've
with
got a
you.
few more predictions to get through in a minute here, but before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of July. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobi, Snackago, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and Also Boobies, Voodoo Vic, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreenGames. You're all the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support and your continued support of this and all of our sister shows, including the Nintendo Noise podcast and the Steam Deck podcast. If you guys want to show your support just like they did, if you want to go above and beyond just like they did, you can head over to flipscreen.games where you will find links to all the places we are all over the web and all the ways that you can get involved in the community or show your support. However you choose to do so, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. Let's get back into it. My next one is that Nintendo will release a new 3D Mario game. It's not happening.
No,
No,
I don't
that's
think
not
so.
happening. It's not happened though. It's not happened. It's just not
I
possibly not.
I wish I had said a new Mario game because that would have been great. They got
That
that.
yeah, if you'd have said that, I would have slapped that down as the most obvious thing. You could say that every year, and it's almost definitely true,
They
right?
just
Yeah,
put out 2D
Mario and
last
Sonic at the
year.
Olympic Games. You know,
It would have been totally
Name me
reasonable.
a single year they haven't released a Mario game.
I could do it. Just I need time that we don't have right now. Let's move
See you
on.
next week.
Steve,
my next one is Hollow Knight Silk Song will finally be released. I still feel this in my bones that it's coming. It's been rated across the world
not
at
a
this
fucking
point,
chance.
but we'll see.
How do you
It's another one.
miss the biggest sort of month in video games with all of everyone's looking for you? You don't even mention it. I just there's
Because you're
something.
fucking Hollow Knight, Max, and you can just say we're really announcing something tomorrow, and
Yeah,
everyone will start to tune into the Team Cherry Twitter account or YouTube channel, and that's it. You don't need to. It's the same way that Eric Barone announced Haunted Chocolatier. We're all waiting with bated breath for the next morsel of news. Why would you pay to be at Jeff's event
true,
when you could just do your own thing?
true, true.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of with Max a little bit where it's like if it's coming, why haven't we heard about it? Why isn't there a
Yeah.
date on it?
Why haven't they done anything like, you know, updated of like, just so you know, it's definitely still coming this year as opposed to last year when they were like, "Okay," there's a point where they were like, "Don't worry, it's still coming," and then nothing, and then
Because
nothing,
I
and then
think
we need a
that's
bit more time.
embarrassing. It's the same thing reason we never heard anything about Metroid Prime 4 again until Nintendo
Yeah,
was ready to tell us when it was actually coming.
Yeah, but that's the
yeah.
thing is if the thing is approved and it's definitely coming out this year, why isn't there a date? Why haven't they told us if it's coming out this year?
I don't know.
How far away from it could we even be at this point, right?
Is
Like
it
it's
gonna
like
be a shadow drop? Who knows?
maybe,
We've been
but that
saying
seems
that
nuts.
we've been saying that every event for the last 3 years, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
to me
can't get my hopes
this
up,
feels like a
man.
Tears of the Kingdom thing for me where I'm like it should have been 2 years ago, right? So, at this point until they fucking say it, I don't this
Mhm.
is vaporware until it's not at this point.
Yeah, which is weird because we've played it. We've played it. I've played, like, a demo of it twice,
Definitely
5
exists.
years ago. Yeah,
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 crazy.
and it
5
showed
years ago
it
you played a
showed up on
demo
the
of it,
PlayStation Store and the Xbox Store for the first time, like on April 1st, and everyone was like, "Is
right?
this an April
Oh,
Fool's joke?"
good
You know?
one, yeah.
Yeah, but that's my thing is like it's like okay, so it showed up in April. So why didn't they talk about it in June? Why is it July and we still haven't heard anything? And that's the thing
Yeah.
is you might totally be right. We might this could happen tomorrow, but it could also not happen for 2 more years and I wouldn't be surprised,
Yeah.
you know?
Can you imagine the stress that's on your shoulders, the weight that's bearing down on you? You made Hollow Knight, and
Yep.
Silk Song could come out, and it could be absolute garbo, so you just really wanna make sure it's right and perfect before you put it out, and
That's the
I
thing
mean,
everyone's,
though is
good,
like, haranguing you.
good, right?
that
It's
is
the same thing
good,
with
but I
Sports Story.
yeah, exactly. And that's my concern is that I think it is good to have that like take your time mentality and like I don't know, man, like you know, you read Blood, Sweat and Pixels, right? And it's
Mhm.
like no game is ever really done. Like no game is perfect. You ship every game with bugs, you ship every game with features you wish you had gotten done. I think that like they're almost in like the worst case scenario where it's like you have a gilded cage, right? Like you bet your entire future on this game and it was an unbelievable, unmitigated success. So much so that the little DLC side thing you were going to do for patrons has become its own fucking game. But now it's like, yeah, but now it has not only the weight of being a sequel to Hollow Knight rather than a DLC, it also has what fucking 6, 7 years worth of expectations on top of it. Where it's like, I feel like it's impossible for game to come out and not be a disappointment at this point. Even if it's great, like
I disagree.
I think people will be upset that it took this long, unless it's this fucking second coming, which it could be, but also
Could
like
be.
that's a lot of fucking pressure, man.
It is a lot of pressure, but I don't think they're not gonna do it. I don't think it's impossible that that's gonna
Me
happen, you
neither.
know?
But my thing is, I think even if it's like a fantastic game, I think people will criticize it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's too there is a lot riding on its shoulders, but I do think that they are a team that's proved themselves and they clearly had a vision for it, and it could be like Tears of the Kingdom, like you said, where it's like that, the team is hard at work on it, know exactly what they're doing,
Yeah.
and or maybe like with Tears of the Kingdom, they had a new feature idea or knew something, and they were like, "Oh, actually, why don't we just delay this and just work on this whole thing?"
Yeah.
They don't have like shareholders and huge their all their money is pretty much from the Kickstarter from before and the sales of the game. They
Right.
don't need
But
to
like
rush and push and get these dates, you know.
that's also part of the thing though, right? Is like, and again, like I know this is like not a super popular opinion to espouse, but like, and you read Jason's book, there are a lot of games where the reason it doesn't get done and is not meeting deadlines is the developer, not the publisher. And the publisher is the one who ultimately is like, you need to put this fucking game out already. And
Yeah.
it's like, this game could be in a space where it is like if a publisher was the one steering the ship, would be like, put it out 2 years ago, put it out 3 years ago. But they
Mhm.
don't have that limitation. They can just work on this forever if they want to until
Yeah.
they run out of money. And it's like
Crazy they
that
can afford to do it. It's
that
crazy
can
that they can actually
be
afford to do that.
yeah. And like that's the thing is like I think while that is good in one sense of like yeah, having unlimited creative freedom and budget and whatever is a good thing in one sense, but it's also like it can kind of be its own problem when you don't have a deadline. And it's just like, well, it's done when it's done. And it's like, well, when is it done? Like, how close to perfect has it been for years now at this
Mm,
point? And you're still fine tuning it, and it's like, at some point you got to shit or get off the pot, right? And it's like, I just think that, man, it's kind of crazy that like I feel like this has hit a point now where it's like every indie event, and if it's not the last thing, people are mad, people are disappointed. Like that feels like go
yeah.
away heat to me a little bit, but like it's the opposite where it's like Why did you tell me fucking anything if it was 8 years away? Why did I play this at an event 5 years ago if you weren't gonna release it until who the fuck knows when? You
Yeah.
know? I
Global
don't know.
pandemic. I will say there was a they
Yeah.
probably had to pause hugely over COVID
I'm sure that
because yeah.
it impacted them for literally years, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, who we truly don't know,
Mhm.
and that is what gives me pause
Mhm.
about it's out this year, it'll be this, it'll be that. It's like, I fucking hope so. I never thought the sequel to Sports Story would be bad, though.
No. Yeah.
It's, yeah, Ghost, that was a
It
shame.
was
That
so
was a
bad,
big
it was, like,
shame.
not even worth playing, right? Was
Yeah,
by most accounts. So it's
and
like,
that was one of those,
do
like
I think that's gonna happen here? Absolutely not. But
mhm,
if this game comes out and it's an 8, people will act like it's a 7.
or worse, or worse.
Mac, your next one?
My next one, now this is I'm calling it the comeback victory because last year I predicted that Elden Ring's DLC would release by June of last year. Obviously, that didn't even happen. It wasn't even announced by then. However, this year I said it won't release Risky until April of this year, but it will release in 2024. And it did. It came out 2 weeks ago. I've been having a blast with it. That is a point for me. Point two. Um, good stuff.
Taking a lead, taking an
What's
early
up
lead.
next?
Taking the lead. Thank you. No more on that. Pete, what's your next one?
My next one was PlayStation will not announce a VR2 game from a first-party studio.
I
This
think this
actually
is going
seems more
Greek.
likely. I think haven't we seen something recently that they've like dramatically cut back and like scrapped a bunch of
Yeah, yeah, like Fire Sprite basically got shut down.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna say
I'm
this is a yellow for now, but
I
I
think it's
see
a
this
yeah.
yellow,
happening.
yeah.
I see this happening.
The
I think it's fucking almost definitely a green. Obviously, we have several months where like that could change, but like
Mhm.
they had their state of play and they're like, we're gonna talk about PSVR2 games, and not a
It was
single one of them
2.
was from a
It
studio
yeah,
they
it was
own.
there was 2 from other studios,
Yeah.
which is and
I
they're
don't think
and
there's
both of those are coming to Meta Quest as well. There's no real exclusives coming to PSVR 2.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a fucking chance in hell that they announce an
No.
internal game
No,
for I don't
no. I think the only reason that the PSVR 2 actually came to PC was because they realized that this just is not worth us investing time into, and we might as well
Yeah.
just make it a piece of hardware that people can use, and we'll
It's
sell
the
an
Stadia
adapter for an additional
controller.
cost.
It's the
Yeah,
Stadia controller in VR form.
yeah,
It's
totally.
just a shame that they've neutered it so much to make it work like that when all the cool features that make the PSVR 2 interesting are just gone from it. It just becomes a dummy headset, like it just becomes a screen and some controllers. Like, what a shame.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
yeah, for sure. So, we'll see on that one, but I'm pretty confident that's gonna be my
Mhm.
second point.
So my next one was that the PS Portal would be updated to include cloud streaming. There was a PS Portal update, version 3.
Yeah.
All it could do was connect to public Wi-Fi
Yeah.
networks, which for some reason it couldn't do that anyway.
There was no
Which
browser. Yeah, there was no browser before. You literally tried to do it, and it was just like, "No, nothing I can do about this." But now that they did an update for that, and that was that. If anything, they actually patch out something from the PS Portal, didn't they? Like, it was announced that you could, like, get in the back end and put other, like, Android apps on it or something, and,
oh well, that wasn't
um
announced. That there's people hacked it so that they
yeah,
could
yeah,
run like
but then they
PSP emulator.
yes, and then the team that hacked it then went to Sony and said, "Here's how you fix it," and had it patched out, basically, that
Yeah.
exploit. So I don't see this happening. I don't see them I think it's
I
doing
still see
fine
it
as it
happening.
is. Oh,
You know,
really?
if they've added a browser in now, they can utilize that browser for their cloud streaming stuff. I don't know.
Mm,
We'll see. I think this could go either way. I do think that it's weird that you can't even stream a cloud game from your PlayStation. If you're streaming a cloud game on your PlayStation, you can't play it on the PS4, even if you're in the same
mm,
house. So that's kind of bizarre. I could see them doing that, but we'll see.
mhm.
Yeah, I think this is one that could still come, but I think it's probably not a this year kind of thing, but we'll
Do
see.
I get half
Yeah.
a point for PS Portal will be updated?
I
Just,
think
you know.
half points. I think we need to have a just quick. I think we need to have a rule for next year where if you have a half point, there needs to be a star in here that says I'm calling a
Okay.
half point now. Because otherwise, you can just go, well, it was half true when we actually specifically said it has to be an and or, and you get a half or a full point. Just to be a
These rules
stickler for
change
the
every
rules.
year. They change
And
every
but
year.
because they get better and better, that's why I think we need to have a
Okay.
star if
Change
you're calling a
every
half
every
point.
year so you can try and get it away from me, and I still
Yeah.
whoop your goddamn asses. I think
Hey,
it's funny that you're trying to change the rules when this is the first year where you've got a strong lead.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
well, we've both got more greens than Pete so far, Max. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
you
I
do.
don't think Steve's got a strong lead. I think I've got a strong lead because once again, I've got another point on the board with this one.
That's what I said. You have a strong
Oh,
lead.
sorry, I
Steve
thought
and
you were
I
talking
are
about
no, no, no,
Steve.
no, no. You're
Sorry,
doing
yeah.
great. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why you're trying to change the rules. This is the first year you've got good stuff going on. But
Thanks, man. Thanks. Here's my next one. That we will see a new unreleased Metroid game in 2024, but not the remaster of Prime 2 or 3, as they are heavily rumored. We've seen Metroid Prime 4. It's not coming out this year, but we've seen it. So that is a point to me. What a year I'm having so far. New Monster Hunter, new Metroid Prime 4, Shadow of the Erd Tree came out. Mwah, bellissimo. It's all going well.
Going well. Okay. Technically not a new game. Could give you a half point on that one, but fine.
No, I'm getting the full point for that. Thank you very much.
Not a new game. Been revealed, but that's fine.
Only
Okay.
specified not Prime 2 or 3, so I get that
I know. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
one.
So my next one is we'll see at least 2 new licensed games from popular IP such as Star Wars or Marvel announced from well-known studios. We got one of those so far. We got Marvel Rivals
was announced.
from
I
NetEase.
considered this. I think this one. I did have a question of like, do we consider it a well-known developer? But I think that game has had enough traction, enough talk about. It's been in a state of play. This is a big enough game to count as 50% of the way there. The other game I was thinking might have been Star Wars Hunters, which has come out this year, but it was actually soft launched in 2021. Therefore, it was announced before then in sort of, I think it was Taiwan. It came out on Android, so that doesn't count yet. But there is still time
Quite a
to
bit.
see a new licensed game for a popular IP.
Yeah, I think my chances here are okay. I think obviously like 50, I got 1 point. That's great. But I don't know. I feel like the likelihood of this happening post SGF is like a little dubious.
I don't
Yeah.
know. You could see it at Game Awards, and you could also see it at Gamescom. We've got
Right.
some big announcements. We got some big events still to come. So I
Totally.
wouldn't count yourself out.
No. I think I'm in pretty good shape here.
I'm just scrolling through to see if there's any thing that might count. There's that MetaQuest exclusive 3 Batman game, but that has already been announced. I've just seen actually. There's a few things that I'm like, oh, does that count?
Oh
Harry
wait,
Potter
no, that
Quidditch-
got announced this year though, didn't
I don't
it?
think it was. I think it got a new story trailer. I think it was already announced.
Okay.
I
We'll have to
think.
double check on that one because that
Yeah,
would
yeah.
if that was announced this year, then that puts me over with Batman. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
It was announced May 1st, 2024.
I think that sets me over then. No.
Well,
Is it
what's
a
the
well-known
studio? Has anyone
developer?
ever heard of it? Because it's
Camouflage.
literally never heard of them.
They make VR games. They made
Yeah,
Iron
that's
Man
like one of those
VR.
things where it's like I think they're probably well known by VR studio standards. Like
If
they
I
they've
went
only
up to
made
someone who doesn't play VR games and went, "What games do Camouflage Studios make?" They could not tell me. But if I
Yeah.
said, who makes Far Cry?" They'd go Ubisoft.
no,
Oh, do you know what?
that's
Do you
a
know
that's a
what?
reach. I think a lot of
Or
people
have you heard of
probably don't know
Ubisoft?
that.
Or have you heard of Camouflage? Like, I've
Sure.
never heard of Camouflage, but I've heard
Pete,
of Ubisoft.
Pete, I am here to save the day. I am here to save the day. Give you a win here. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind was announced during State of Play,
Fuck
announced
yes,
by
it
Digital
was.
Eclipse, who had already worked previously on things like Volgar the Viking and that Solo, I think it was called. I can't remember. They are. I would consider that possibly to be. In fact, that's the publisher. Who's developing it? Same people. I don't know. I think that's also a good one. I think that counts. Is that the same team that did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one?
No, that
Who
was
knows?
.emu, I think.
Then this is getting less. This is getting less. I'm still
I
looking.
think
I'm
that
still
fucking
looking.
You know what?
counts.
Let's
Come on,
let's
that's
make it go
two-
yellow. Let's make it go yellow, and Pete can present his arguments when we judge this at the
Yeah,
end of the
fine.
year.
Then more could be
Fair.
announced anyway. So make
More
it
will
yellow.
probably be announced. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so far, I
Yeah.
think those are. We'll have to argue for those. Maybe some of the people in the comments can weigh in on whether they think that Digital Eclipse, because I thought that they were the same people that made the other one.
Oh, was it Digital Eclipse?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're well known. They
Yeah.
made that.
Come on,
They made
give me
the,
my
they
point.
made
I'm
the
taking my
Atari
point.
Atari collection.
I'm taking my point.
Give it to him. Give it to him.
That's 2 points on the board, baby.
Give it to him.
I'll
Let's
take.
give him. I'll give you a crumb. I'll give you. You've earned a little crumb.
Yeah,
There
I
you
think
go.
so. Give me my crumb. Give
Here's,
me my crumb.
yeah.
Look, that's the thing. If I ain't winning this year, I'm still fighting for the silver. You know?
Yeah, it's true.
Okay. Steve, your next one?
My next one, an Xbox console exclusive, will be considered Game of the Year for the first time at the Game Awards. No way of knowing this till the end of the year, but I could easily see it happening. I could see Hellblade 2 being there. I could see Indiana Jones being there if that.
But
ever
if
comes out.
Avowed is great.
Avowed could be great.
You have
Yeah.
a lot of opportunities, I think, for this to still be
Mhm.
correct. I think this is a good prediction.
It's a soft old year so far for Game of the Year contenders. I think it's probably going to be Nintendo, maybe Ubisoft in there. Maybe we see like a Balatro get
Yeah.
up there.
Maybe Shadow of
Yeah.
the Erdtree gets it counts because
Does
it's
a DLC count?
massive.
Who
That's the
knows?
big
Yeah.
question.
I don't think it could be game of the year, but they do have a best
Yeah,
like
like supporting
expansion
game or
add-on. I
whatever,
think it's
or
gonna
yeah.
fucking clean that one
Oh,
right up for
absolutely.
sure. And if people consider it for other categories like action or whatever, maybe, but
Mhm.
like I feel like it probably will get disqualified just because it's DLC.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you now, Shadow of the Erdtree is gonna feature in the FlipScreen Games Game of the Year conversation. I don't care. I put 2 DLCs in there last year. I'm having this.
That's fine.
Do what you want.
We make our own rules. I'm putting
We
a, I'm
do
putting
make
a
our own.
fucking fan ROM hack game on mine. So
Yeah,
do
cool. Okay,
whatever you want.
I look forward to discussing this when it comes to it then.
Let's
What
do
new
it.
games do the New York Times have this year? Can I sneak one of those in? Wordle and Connect haven't failed it
Uh,
the last couple of years. Who
We got the
what's
knows?
that one
Wordle
with
Wordle
the
2.
yeah, what's that one with the bees?
What the Sky game from like the year 2000? Beehive
Yeah.
Bedlam. Yeah, I got that on there.
All right, Max. What's your
Brilliant.
next one, bud?
My next one is that Capcom's Pragmata would not be released in 2024. Now, I was hesitant on whether to make this yellow based on yesterday's Capcom Next stream, which we're not going to have time to get into today, but that was not, it didn't show up in any form at all. So I think that this is definitely going to happen. We're definitely not going to see this game in 2024, which is tragic because I'm really keen to see what this is. It's like a new IP from Capcom. I was really excited to see it. It looked really cool, really interesting, and it's not shown up at all for like a good year or so. So hopefully it's not cancelled, but hopefully it doesn't release this year, just so I get my point.
I think you're probably safe.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think so.
In which
I
case,
forgot this game
in which
existed.
case you're in fucking great shape right now, my guy.
Yeah, imagine that.
You're looking at
4.
4 points right now.
Lovely stuff.
Which I think is pretty good. I mean, I don't. Here's my thing, right? I got 2. I think I'm locked in for 3. I don't know that I have another one that's gonna come through. So
Mhm.
you might be all right.
Might be all right.
You might be all right. My next one is, and this is our last regular before we get into our risky picks, which are worth double points.
Mhm.
Mine is at least one major games as a service will follow Fortnite and release a new game within their existing game, e.g., Lego Fortnite, Festival, and Rocket Racing. I don't think this has happened yet.
No,
No,
what's the rhythm game that's in Fortnite with the controller, the game
The
that
Guitar Hero one.
yeah, is that already out? Was that already out before and the controllers just come out for it? What's that
I
about?
I think Festival is that, and I'm pretty sure it was out at the
Ah,
time that I made this prediction.
right, okay, fine. Then
yeah, we've not
I
seen
haven't
anything
seen
else. I
this,
don't
which
think.
is crazy because it's such a like it's really worked for Fortnite, and you think that
Good
games that are
idea.
trying to remain relevant,
That's why I guess I figured somebody would try to copy them right away and like
yeah,
COD or would put zombies in or something like that, or whatever. Could still happen, but who knows?
yeah, I wouldn't count zombies as that. It's just a mode in Call of Duty, not necessarily inside
But I'm saying if they
Warzone
made
or
like a mode in Warzone that was like a different game mode and it
yeah,
wasn't like it wasn't just like drop in and there's zombies. Like if it was like more
yeah,
of like
yeah,
a PvE kind of thing or whatever, like that would obviously be a very different experience.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I don't necessarily see this one happening. I think I probably was just too early on that. I think this is a thing that will probably continue to happen, but
Hmm.
just takes more time to react, I guess.
Yes, I think so.
Steve,
So I get a nice green point for
You
this one. A
do.
successor to the Steam controller will be revealed, but may not be made by Valve. I think we can safely say that the controller we spoke about, the Hori gamepad for
100%.
Steam, is that.
1,000%.
Yeah,
Great call.
they worked with Valve. It's got complete integration into Steam OS. You can customize all the buttons. It seemingly has everything. It's got the haptic sticks and stuff that we expect from the Steam Deck. So I'll probably pick one of these up. Yeah, but if
They're
you want to
only
hear
in
more about it,
Japan at launch, though, right? You got to
it
import them.
is. Yeah, it's only been announced for Japan so far, but I would imagine it's going to get announced elsewhere at some point because Hori
Mhm.
released their controllers everywhere.
Did they usually do them in Japan first? Is that how that works?
I think it was announced at a Japanese event, which is why it was announced for Japan.
I just don't remember them doing this previously, but it's also probably like when they announce
I
new controllers, it's not usually news in
yeah,
the way
how
that
you
this
pay? You're not
is.
really paying attention, are you?
No,
Until
Yeah.
it's like whenever
yeah,
it comes to America, it's probably the first time I hear about it, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, okay,
yeah.
cool, great.
Although
Um,
maybe the Split Pad Pro might have been like with the Japanese release of Demon X Machina, which I think
maybe.
might have been before the English release, maybe, but that's so situational, so I don't know.
Max, next.
My next one was that a Zelda remaster or remake will be released, and I was so sure this was going to happen during that direct when they started showing the
Yeah,
that trailer, and I was like, "Oh, it's Links to the
so
Past in this,"
close.
and then it all changed. And I was like, "Oh, I'm glad it's not that because I am glad we're getting something new." Um, but yeah, shame for this. I
I'm
mean,
gonna
but
mark that one red.
however, what if there's a Nintendo Direct and they go, "Oh yeah, here's Wind Waker HD." Could still happen.
Yeah,
Orange, or at least orange.
I think it's red, but that's
I'm
fine.
oranging it.
You
I'm
do what you
putting it
gotta do.
orange. Yeah. Risky
Not to
pick.
mention, like, I think there was another thing that, like, it would have made sense in another context was when they were like, "Oh, like, these games are coming to NSO," and, like, Four Swords Adventure was one of them. I was like, "Oh, man, he was so close on that."
Yeah.
That would have been,
That
you know?
oh, well. It just seems like such an obvious pick, but oh, well. Enough of obvious
I
picks.
think it
It's
was a
risky
really good
picks.
prediction. I think
I
the
think so.
Zelda thing was totally unpredictable. Like, I think it
Yeah.
would have made a lot more sense for it to be a re-release, but here we are.
Yeah. Risky picks,
Uh
Pete. Risky picks. Come on.
Risky picks. So if you're not familiar, the risky picks are ones that they're worth 2 points, but your other two, or I guess whoever else is on the panel, has to agree that it's a risky pick before you can lock it in. It has to be something that we don't think is likely to happen.
Yeah.
But that's why if it does, you get them double points.
Uh-huh.
And we have got them in the past. It's happened. So mine is this will be the first year that players can confidently say Xbox's release calendar was better than PlayStation. I
I
think there's
don't
a very good chance that this could still happen. But it really depends on how the two games that PlayStation has left perform and if the games that Xbox has planned actually come out.
Yeah, I think Helldivers at the time of saying this, I think this was like yeah, this could happen. I do think that Helldivers 2 has really dragged that down some.
Yep.
Um,
It's going to be a really uphill battle
mhm.
to have a release that has
Yeah.
as much impact as Helldivers did.
Yeah, and Hellblade has been and gone. Like it was never mentioned before release. It's come out, and I've not seen it
know.
mentioned since
Yeah.
release. Avowed is going to be strong. I think Indiana Jones. We don't even have a confirmed release date for, if I'm
Didn't
right.
Final
Still,
Fantasy VII come out this year as well for
yeah,
PS5?
that's true. That is true. Yeah. Um, and then Astrobot looks really good.
Astrobot is great, yeah.
Yeah, Stellar Blade came out well. Rise of the
Everyone's
Dragon
really
was
excited about
fine.
Concord.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So I think
I think that's ultimately the question here, right? Is like if Astrobot comes out and is good or great, and Concord comes out and is good or great,
surprising.
then yeah, right.
Well,
Then
or vice versa, you know, Avowed could come out and it could be a flop, Indiana Jones could come out and it might not be great, or it might not come
or
out
get
at all,
delayed.
it could get pushed into
Yeah.
2025, and in
Yeah.
which case it's like, well,
So
PlayStation probably crunched it.
my thought here is if the games that Xbox says are coming out, like if Avowed and Indie make it across the board, if some of the other games that they showed us at the last event that we thought looked good come across the board, I think through volume they could win. Because if Indie is like a 9 or a 10, if Avowed is like a 9 or an 8, like, you know, I think you can argue that like Helldivers is the bigger game of the year.
Mhm.
But if Helldivers is kind of the one thing they have to hang their hat on, that, I think is a tougher argument,
Yeah.
even if Astrobot is good,
Can I point
depends.
something out? This says nothing less to interpretation or subjectivity this year, right? I think when we calculate this at the end of the year, this needs to be stats and figures. This needs to be Metacritic scores. This needs to be like weighted amongst how many games are in there. We need to do some like we need
I'm
to have a
gonna
chart or something to
I
put
think
together
what
to
I'm gonna do
say,
is I'm gonna come and make a case for
yeah,
why it's
okay,
better. And I think
okay,
what I would include in that would be critical reception, sales figures, and then
You
awards
know,
acknowledgement.
yeah, if Final
yeah,
Fantasy
yeah, yeah, yeah,
VII wins Game of the Year, then, you know, you stand no chance, really.
yeah.
Right.
I would love
But
some
But,
numbers.
like, I think if we get to the point where it's like, okay, those are the games that they have on their side of the fence, right? Helldivers sold really well. It won maybe multiplayer game of the year, something like that. Great. That's a feather in their cap. But like we talked about how Final Fantasy underperformed. So it's like it's a great game, but like, did anybody play it? Like, it's like if Indiana
Mhm.
Jones comes out and that was the big fucking game of the fall, then like that to me outweighs that. And we'll see. I think I don't know. I think this is very, very tenuous right now. I think it's totally a coin flip, and it depends on a lot of games. coming out and performing or not performing on both
Yeah.
sides of the argument. But right now, I mean, PlayStation's in front for sure, right? With Helldivers. I don't think Xbox has had anything that's had that level of impact this year. But we'll see.
My risky pick: Bungie will no longer be owned by PlayStation at the end of 2024. I doubt this is going to come true. That's why it's a risky pick. But their pivot away from live service games, their new co-CEOs. Maybe they want to get rid, especially considering how
Sell it for $2
badly.
billion. Me and
Yeah.
Steve both get the point.
Well, you get a little bit of cash back as well, or spin it out as an independent and you don't own it anymore. Just let them go. You retain the IP, and Bungie can fuck off into the sunset.
I just don't think you can do that after spending so much money on them.
I mean, you own Destiny. You can keep the IP and hand it over to someone else. Start something fresh, and let Bungie go and make something else
That
that's the
doesn't make
same
any
game again.
sense though. Like it just doesn't. Like
Yeah.
Destiny is not worth $3 billion. And like
No. A marathon's been delayed. We saw the Destiny as new DLC underperformed. Like, there's
yeah.
been so much
And the
trouble
idea
going
that
on with
like
that
they would
studio.
take that IP, give it to someone else, and turn it into something that generates billions. It's no, definitely not. If Bungie can't make it that successful, no one else.
Well, the only thing I could see that they could do with it, being Sony as a whole, is you go to PlayStation Pictures, you make a TV show or a movie out of it, and you start reaping some
Yeah,
cash back that way.
maybe, but it's like, is the lore to Bungie that good?
No,
Like, let's
it's
be
like the
real. Is
story was
it?
terrible. It's like the
Right.
light or the dark. It's like cool.
Yeah, it's not that good.
How
Like
original.
let's be 100%, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like
Good
people
characters though, I think, right?
sure. And you could always make changes and whatever. It's like it's not unheard of, but it's like
Mhm.
I don't know, man. It's not like Fallout, right? Like it's not like Last of Us. It's not like a universe where you're like, "Oh, duh," right? Like, of
Yeah.
course, there's so many stories. It's like very convoluted high science fiction. And I say that as somebody that likes convoluted high science
Yeah.
fiction. It's not accessible to people in the way that Halo is or something like that. It's like it's very weird and it's weird in a way that I don't think lends itself to mass media, right? Maybe an anime,
Yeah.
maybe a Netflix show, sure, but
Well, I
like
could see Netflix anime doing well, but that's not going to be billions, is it? You're not getting that
no,
back
right? Like
from
Yeah.
that's not Fallout. That's not, it's not that kind of thing. It's not gonna be The Last of Us. It's not gonna be what I think is capable of doing with something like Horizon or any of those other IP where it's like
Mhm.
this has a world that's
Oh,
very
can you
well
imagine
realized.
everyone's minds being blown by Horizon when they find out the end of the story? Like, you know, they did when everyone's minds were blown by the end of the Last of Us TV series, and we're like, yeah, we had this discussion in 2013, but
Yeah.
it's really cool that you guys are like watching the TV show and we can have the
Yeah.
same conversation again.
I
And
mean,
people
that's
are
the
like, "What's
thing.
gonna happen next? What's
The
gonna happen next?" We just have no way of knowing.
the first Horizon game will translate so well to television if they do it right, right? Like the whole
Yeah.
Mhm.
like two narratives and like yeah, it's like fucking so obvious how you do that well and
They
how
do
you
flashbacks as well, like,
well and how you
awesome.
use the flashbacks to save a shitload of money because they're all in
Mhm.
a fucking bottle, right? And all the you know uh present day Horizon timeline stuff is going to be fucking expensive as shit from costuming and
It's the,
practical effects
Quantum
and everything.
Break way of doing it, where you have all of the crazy, crazy, crazy stuff and all the special effects happening in the game. When you cut to the TV show bit, it's just some people in cheap costumes driving around in cars having conversations, right? You
Just a
just
bunch of just a
save
bunch of people in lab coats, like, in a bunker, like,
Yeah.
it's
You
like, "Yeah,
save
great, fucking
loads of
A."
money on set. Yeah, you just do yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you're right about Bungie not being a permanent fixture of PlayStation, but I just think I think they spent too much money to just,
If they
like
close the studio, does that count here? They don't own it anymore, it's
I was gonna ask
closed?
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, it says will no longer be owned by PlayStation. If it doesn't
Yeah.
exist, then it's no longer owned by PlayStation. I think that
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with
Like, I
you
could
there.
see that happening quite easily. Let me just
That I mean,
close
to
Bungie.
to spunk 3.6 billion away in 2 years would be
Then you go,
bad.
"Well, that was Jim Ryan. It was previous leadership,"
Yeah, but it's
like
it's such
True.
a it's such a thing where it's like the operating costs of Bungie compared to how much you fucking put in that hole, I don't think are like I think if anything you lay more people off, like you try to like make it leaner and try to be like we need to put out a new Destiny or we need to put out, we need something to kind of get this back on track. But I mean, I don't know. Like you do make a good point that like that was an investment seemingly as part of a broader initiative, which has now been gutted. So maybe you do just
Mm.
cut your losses and say, fuck, we pissed away this money, but that's that. Let's not keep making that mistake.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
a sunk cost fallacy, you know? It's like that kind of
yeah.
gambler's mindset. Do we just keep funneling it
Yeah.
in until it does make money, or do
But
you just
think about how bad the press is on that too. Not only did you piss away like fucking $3.5 billion and like have egg on your face, then it's like you also shut down this beloved storied video game developer. You killed Destiny. You killed, what could have been the next Destiny by
Yeah.
canceling. It just felt like it's tough. I think you're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't position. And I think if anything, you probably want to at least let Marathon come out, because if Marathon is as popular as Destiny was when it came out, maybe you do make some of that money.
Yeah. It would
A lot of
be
ifs though.
it would be another shitter on what seems to have been like a negative press year for Sony, I think. Maybe they want to avoid
Mhm.
that and just cling on for as long as possible until Marathon comes out, but who knows?
It really depends on how far along it is too, and like how good it looks. Because if it looks
Yeah.
great and
I
maybe
know
like
it got
Destiny's
delayed.
run it.
Can't be that great.
I mean, but
Yeah.
like it could be. That's the thing though, right? It's like, it's tough. It's tough to say because it could be one of those things where they're like, hey, like Destiny is over and it's plateauing, and like let's make sure that this is good, right? Like that could be the thought there. It's tough though. It really is, because it's like you're operating under the assumption of like, all right, like how many more hundreds of thousands of dollars do we want to spend in salary for the next couple of years for you to finish this game and have it come out and
Well,
also
not
be
to
shit?
mention server costs and, all of the software licenses and
Mm,
technology that they've got to keep going. They're probably spending millions a year.
Yeah, they have to be to run a studio that big. That's just what it costs. But it's
Yeah.
like,
mhm.
yeah, that's what you knew that when you got in business with them, and it's like, I don't know. It, it,
And we've
it's a
ne
it's a
and we
huge question.
We never saw the other angle that they went with when they bought them as well, which I constantly always think about. It's like Bungie being their mark to publish other titles under, and they spoke about that we're going to publish games. Bungie can publish their own games themselves, and they'll be
Hmm.
multi-platform. And we may use Bungie to publish other games like MLB The Show, for example. Maybe they would publish that under Bungie. Never seen that. Never seen it happen.
Not
And it,
yet, but it's all like their acquisition of them is still relatively young in terms of like over like it's only been a couple years, right? So the idea that like it takes time to integrate those things and change everything makes sense. And I mean, arguably, they have made some money back from that acquisition. If you think about the fact that they have canceled all these games that were going to take you more, say they took 5 more years to develop or 3 more years to develop, right? Like all the money that they saved by canceling all those games because Bungie said that they were not good. Again, that's theory, but if that's the case, maybe you look at that and you're like, hey, like, yeah, like Bungie's not making money, but they helped us decide to pivot away from this fucking money pit that we were going to invest hundreds of billions of more dollars into. So maybe that's value. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, clearly having good live service games as part of your portfolio is a positive thing. Look at Helldivers. But can it's one of those things where maybe it is like, hey, let's reduce the number of projects. Let's focus in. And instead of trying to make 12 of these games and half of them are going to fucking suck, we make 6 and we guarantee that they're good.
well, I also think that Helldivers had that multi-platform strategy from day one, and I don't think they'd even considered that until Helldivers. Yeah, I don't think it would have been as big a success if it didn't launch on PC on day one.
No,
And I
no,
don't think it would have
it
been as big a
literally could
success
not have been.
yeah, and I
Right.
don't think it would have been if it was a $70 title, which is what they were looking to charge for some of these larger games.
Right. So I mean, like those are all things that I think are worth considering in terms of what the future of Bungie at PlayStation looks like. Because maybe it is like we need more Helldivers, not more Spider-Men. Right.
Mm.
We'll see. Max, last one.
My last one is that the next generation Nintendo console will not release alongside a new Nintendo IP, i.e., or e.g., 1-2 Switch or Wii Sports. You're highlighting this like you're about to make it a color.
It's gonna go red because this console ain't coming out this year.
Well, yeah, but what if they announce
Doesn't
it's not
matter.
happening?
You said release. You said
Shit.
the next Nintendo console will not release alongside new
Full stop. There
Nintendo
we go.
IP.
That's half a point.
I
You
was
should have
gonna
put a
say,
star in there.
you were so close on that one. If it wasn't a risky
It's
pick,
like
I'd give it
that.
to you.
It's like the whatever the lawyer from The Simpsons is, where it's like I just start drawing in the new punctuation over the top of it. Like,
Yeah, the business card.
Real Lionel Hutz move.
that's the name. That's the name. Thank you. All right, give it a red. Whatever. I don't care. I'm gonna win anyway. So
I mean, I think there's a real good chance you are going to win, buddy. I mean, we'll see, right? Like, I think it's to me right now, if I had to guess, I think you're definitely fucked on your
Thanks,
two
bro.
that you have highlighted
Cheers,
white.
bro.
The next fully backwards compatible Nintendo console and the new piece of Valve hardware, I think those are both definitely not going to happen. I think the Xenoblade thing is probably not going to happen. Pokemon thing's definitely not going to happen. Capcom thing's another easy point for you. If that comes across, you got 4. I think you're the one to beat then, right? I think for me, I could get my risky pick, which would tie us. And the PlayStation thing I think is probably a lock, which would,
I
but
look
that would put me
forward
above
to
you. That is such a fucking uphill battle for me, though.
I
Yeah.
think I'm there too. I don't think we're going to see another PlayStation Studios title released in 2024. I think 3 is the limit, and I
Mhm.
think
That
we
puts you at
can.
2.
I think then Valve will release Deadlock, and I do think that the formal pivot away from live service games has already been reflected. And I could easily see Silksong being released, or an Xbox game being considered for Game of the Year.
So that's the thing I think where you've got a real chance. I think if we give you that other, let's say you're going to get the PlayStation point, you're at 2 right now. I don't feel confident about the Valve thing. I think that's a very iffy one. If that happens, that puts you at 3. I think you're definitely right about the Game of the Year one. I think that's a really, really easy, that could be another easy point for you. That would put you at 4 as well.
Yeah, and then I just need Hollow Knight to come through, and everyone in the world will be happy.
I think where you're in an interesting point right now is I think the likelihood of you tying Max is very high. I think
Yeah.
every other one that you have that could push you over, they're like a 50-50. Like the Playdate thing is a 50-50, right? Like the Hollow Knight thing feels like a 50-50 to me. But I mean, that's you could end up with 6 points if both of those come to pass, and they're totally still in play, you know? Like, I think that's very interesting. I think that's where I'm in a weird spot where I think I have too many of those where it's like they're all 50-50, and it's like, yeah, the Steam Deck thing might happen. It might also definitely not happen. And if I don't get 1 or 2 lucky breaks there, there's no fucking way I'm taking it back. And I think it's going to be between the two of you, and we'll see. But
Yeah, I
that's
think the PlayStation one, you're right. The VRT games are locked. They're not releasing
that's a
anything
fucking
else.
lock. They're not
They
going to
don't give a
fucking,
shit
yeah,
about it.
come
No.
on, right? Like, there's no fucking way.
But then some of it comes
Um,
down to timing. You know, the Xbox Store, does that launch in 2024? Or does that get pushed into
right.
2025? You
Like,
know?
if that launches, then I'm in a way, way cleaner likelihood of catching back up. But that's that could happen tomorrow. That could happen a year from now. Who the fuck
Yeah.
knows? You know?
So I'm desperate for a sweeping Nintendo Direct that just bing, 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 bing fills me full of bing, bing, wahoo fills me full of points, and I come away winning. What we've just spent an hour and 20 minutes talking about is that it's all up for grabs.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean,
It,
Pete could get one with a new Nintendo Direct. They could release a 3D Mario game. They could announce the new Switch and say it's
Whose
$70.
side are you on?
The winner's side. Let's see.
that's
Yeah,
right.
it's
I'm
nice.
like that when
It's
I
nice for
watch.
you to pick an
I'm like
allegiance.
that when I watch the Euros, except last night when I very much enjoyed watching Ronaldo cry. That was fun.
What was it that they BBC called him? Was it Mistiano Pinaldo or something like that? Brilliant.
Okay, that one went right over my head. That was a little too British for me,
It's,
American
it's
listeners.
football. It's football.
Football.
Soccer.
Okay, got it.
Ronaldo.
Soccer.
I think Ronaldo's too British.
Look, you said watching Euros, and I'm like, is
Oh,
that
the Euro,
Eurovision?
the
What are you talking
UEFA
yeah.
Euro Cup. There you go.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. I see. I knew that was happening, but as an American, it's my God-given right to not care about soccer.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you're not
yeah,
in
yeah.
it. You know, you're in the baseball World Series on your own, so it's fine. I get it.
Yeah.
It's us in Canada. Relax.
The
You know?
universe.
All the countries where God pays attention. You know? I'm joking. Want to be clear? No disrespect to soccer and all of our European listeners. Just having some fun. All right. So I think you're right, Max. I think right now it's anybody's game, but I will say, as the seasoned prediction winner, my prediction is you're the one to beat right now, Max. We'll see.
For the listeners, I'm punching the air with like a fearful, terrifying, aura.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We'll take that. We'll take that. That's what that was, apparently.
Max throwing windmills.
Yeah. Whoa.
All right, folks. Wow, this one went a lot longer than I thought it did. My bad.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
thank
on
you guys
to our
for
next
joining us.
topic.
All right, let's talk about the Capcom Next event. No, seriously, thank you all for joining us here for another episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. We love you. Head over to flipscreen.games. Show your support however you can. Become a Patreon supporter. Go check out the sister shows. However you choose to get involved and show your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. We love you, and we'll see you next week.